So Florence Foster Jenkins, based on the true story, and it says at the beginning, based on true events, of Florence Foster Jenkins. It's 1940s. She is a rich socialite she loves music and is a great patron of the arts. When we first meet her, Hugh Grant, who is her manager and partner, common law husband, Sinclair Bayfield, is doing readings from Shakespeare to the Verdi Club. There's a lovely line in which he says, he does a bit from Hamlet, and he says, a play I have performed many times, although sadly not yet in the principal role. And then we see these weird tableaux vivants, which consist of Florence Foster Jenkins being lowered down on a winch, providing inspiration to writing musicians, and then her appearance as the Valkyrie. She goes to a Lily Pons concert. She is overwhelmed by hearing this music, and she wants to share that profound communion. So she decides that what she's going to do is take up singing lessons again. The problem is that despite the fact she is musically talented, and she is, I mean, actually, she was a very, very talented musician beforehand, she can't sing, and she can't hear that she can't sing. But she is surrounded by people who, for various different reasons, encourage her to believe that she can, all of which is fine until suddenly the prospect arises of a concert at Carnegie Hall in which the audience response cannot be contained. Here is a clip from early on with her relearning her voice, refinding her voice, and her music teacher basically not telling her that she's nowhere near the notes.
Stop there. There's work to be done. But you've never sounded better.
Yeah.
Maestro, it is true that a lot of singers my age are on the decline, but I seem to just get better and better.
I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
Well, I am so blessed.
There is no one quite like you.
And that
sounds like Salieri and Mozart in Amadeus, when Amadeus says, with every note it just says
Salieri. Now, so then what happens is that she decides that she wants to play Carnegie Hall, and Sinclair Bayfield, played by Hugh Grant, is suddenly placed in this terrible dilemma. He doesn't want her to go out in front of a mass audience because people will laugh at her. And yet it's what she wants to do, and it's what she wants more than anything else. So the movie then moves towards this kind of, how are we going to contain this situation? Now, obviously, on the one level, there are plenty of laughs. I mean, it's directed by Stephen Frears. There are sections in it that are hilarious. And one of the reasons that they're hilarious is because Meryl Streep does a really, really fine performance. She demonstrates that thing that we should all remember, which is that in order to sing badly, you have to be able to sing well. I mean, the Florence Foster Jenkins story has been told many times before. It's been stage plays, Maureen Lipman's played it. There is a version of the story which came out just a month ago here, called Marguerite, for which Catherine Fro won a César Award. I think the film won 4 Césars, playing a fictionalized version of Florence Foster Jenkins called Marguerite Dumont, whose name obviously sort of refers to Margaret Dumont, who was the foil of the Marx Brothers movies, and to whom Stephen Frears incidentally says, I can see a resemblance between Florence Foster Jenkins and, that thing about preposterous and yet also utterly sympathetic. So Meryl Streep is really, really enjoying the performance. She's really enjoying the singing. She's really enjoying doing what she can, which is that being a talented enough singer to be just wrong. But the reason it's funny is because it's close enough, because there's nothing funny about somebody just singing badly. And you said when you interviewed Meryl Streep, and I thought this was very astute, unlikely as that sounds, you said the film's got the wrong tagline, because you said it was being advertised as the story of the worst singer in the world, and she's not.
It says 2 things. It says the inspirational story of the worst singer in the world, and I don't think it's a particularly inspirational story, and she's certainly not.
Okay, I think it is inspirational, but what I agree is that she isn't. But what the point is that what she is overreaching by quite some distance. And so she's taking on some of the most complicated pieces and missing them by a mile. But what makes it work is that you can hear the gusto. So firstly, I think Meryl Streep is terrific, and there are times in it that I was reminded of her performance as a later life Thatcher in The Iron Lady. There were many times I just thought it's incredible. She just gets better. I mean, she commands the screen. I remember seeing Streep, early on in, films like The Deer Hunter and Sophie Show's films in which she was incredibly intense, and then the blossoming of comedy, and then Mamma Mia. So you think, is there really nothing that she can't do? She can do Mamma Mia. She can do those songs. She can make the nonsense of that music make sense. And in this, it's a role that she is clearly enjoying the heck out of. The question then is whether or not you are laughing with her or at her. And if you look at a film like Marguerite, Marguerite has a much more sort of cynical edge to it. Firstly, the inspiration for her singing in Marguerite is the absence of a husband's love. In this, it is the presence of a love from Sinclair Bayfield, who, despite the fact that he's off living with another woman and their marriage is I'm sorry, I can't
unusual.
Say that. It's unusual, but what you get is the sense that he genuinely does love and care for her. He refers to her as Bunny. He talks about our very happy world. And there was more than one occasion in which there were very, very tender scenes between Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant, in which I was moved to tears. Incidentally, I think it's Hugh Grant's best performance. I think it's funny that he's kind of suddenly found this silver fox thing, and he suddenly manages to remind you that when he was great, because he did have a period when he was in some comedies that really he shouldn't have been in, and he was in some movies that were but I think he really gets his teeth into this, and I think he's really good. I also think, and I know some people disagree with me, I think that in the case of Marguerite, your sympathies, in the case of Florence Foster Jenkins, pardon me, your sympathies are with her. That what happens is that you see her as an heroic figure. You see her as somebody who believes in this music, for all the right reasons, who what she wants to do is to go out and perform for people who incidentally have been in terrible circumstances because the war is on. There's that lovely line when she's worrying about the potato salad and there's no chives, and Hugh Grant says, "I know, unconscionable, I know, but they do tell me there is a war on." All that stuff is really funny and is really sort of charming, but for me the film also had heart. And I think that in order to like it, you have to think that you are on her side. You have to think that actually what she's doing is not, because there was this sort of strange mocking thing afterwards that all those records became known as the worst singer in the world, those 78 recordings which kind of passed into legend. But in both Marguerite and this, and indeed in the other versions of the story that have appeared, the central thing is you have to laugh with her. You have to love her. And I think the comparison that I was thinking of was Tim Burton and Ed Wood. Ed Wood was sort of hailed as the worst filmmaker of all time because he made Plan 9 from Outer Space. But it is clear in Ed Wood that Burton has fallen in love with Ed. And it seemed clear to me in Florence Foster Jenkins that Frears had fallen in love with Florence.